All right, Shalom. All right, let me get straight into this lesson. But I'm gonna be going into this book right here. It's called The Negro Rulers of Scotland and the British Isles. Right, so these would be Israelites that rule, right, but in their 1,000-year reign. You know, let's go here so you can see. All right, let me pull this up, this map, right? So the white man to have you thinking that you're a so-called African and you was running around Africa butt naked, so-called Africa, right? Because it was renamed Africa, right? Again, you're looking at a map of so-called Europe. That's not even its original name. It's all confusion, right? But I want you to focus on, right? Because they'll make you think that, our people really don't do no study on things. They just go what they've been told. But you would think so-called Europe was all inhabited by so-called white people. That's nothing but a lie. But that's what most people think. That's why they call them the Europeans, right? So this all is confusion and made up. There's no such thing as Europeans. These are Edomites that took over so-called Europe. And so-called Europe was occupied by so-called black people. And they had different kingdoms and rulerships throughout the world, right? So let me go into this book, right? So there's information that you're never gonna learn in your conventional school system, right? They want you to think that you was always slaves. You never accomplished anything, and you were so-called. They had to so-called. What's the term I'm looking for? Civilize you, right? Right. So let's get some of these rulers out of, from this area. It says the Protestant, and I'm gonna go do further lessons going into all this a vast amount of information to get to. It said a Protestant. So you had Jakes that actually was separated from the so-called Roman Catholic Church, right? Right. That's a whole nother lesson. Henry Stuart, it said also known as Lord Damley, was the son of Matthew Stuart and Margaret Douglas, right? And Jake ruled Europe for over 1,000 years, right? It says the Protestant King George VI, I believe, was the first son of George III. And this Moorish just means so-called black. Negro wife Sophia, Charlotte, and this is Jake right here. You can look at the features. It says he ruled Great Britain from 1820 AD to 1830. Like I say, it's kind of out of that range of that 1,000 years, but Jake was still ruling beyond 1,000 years. You know what I'm saying? That time frame. All right, let's get more into it. Right here, it says Her Majesty, so-called Queen Charlotte, who was a descendant of the Portuguese Negro Moorish royal family. So these people that's calling themselves royals are nothing but peasants, the Edomites, right? Right here, Edward. It said Edward Augustus, Duke of Kent, was the fourth son of King George III, and his Moorish Negro wife, Sophia Charlotte, right? Queen Victoria, right? The European coats of arms, right? You had all these so-called black people was ruling all over Europe. It says the earliest symbols of the pit, I forgot how to pronunciate that, but it's a way you say that. Pit, something like that. It says Scottish tribes, Irish, British, German, Austrian, French, and the rest of Europe coats of arms were originally images of the Negro Moorish race, so-called blacks, you Israelites. All right. So all these names. All right. This is George II. It says the Moorish Protestant George II inherited the throne from his father, George I, in 1727 AD to 1760 AD. It says the king's genealogy is traced all the way back to the Scottish ruler Kenneth the nigger. So that word nigger, this means black. All right, so-called black. It says Duffy, black, or dub. through the so-called Moorish Scottish King James the sixth, if I'm not mistaken, of England. King James' dark-skinned daughter, Elizabeth Bohemia. Right, so King James was a so-called black man. He was a king over 3 domains. Right? It says the Moorish German Protestant George I inherited the English throne from his distant cousin Queen Anne Stuart in 1714 AD. Right? Look at him, he look like Barry White. It says James Francis Edward Stuart. James Francis Edward Stuart, 1688 AD to 1766, was the son of King James II of England and Mary, Mary of Modena. All right. They was called, like I was telling you in another lesson, they was called Black Boy, different names like that. It says Mary II, a Protestant queen, Mary II with her swarty. Swarty means so-called black skin, black, brown skinned, dark skin, swarty. Stuart complexion was the first daughter of James II. It says the brother of Charles II, who was called Black Boy. It says Mary and her dark-skinned hunchback cousin. All right. It's James II. It says the Catholic King James II was the son of Charles I, the younger brother and successor of Charles II, who was called Black Boy. James ruled England from 1685 AD to 1688 AD. Right? It says the so-called Black Protestant and Catholic King Charles II. Check it out. All these so-called black men, Jakes, you'll never see that. It says the son of Charles I, who was beheaded in 1649 AD. It says prior to the death of his father, the young prince exiled to France to live among, right? All right, Charles I. It says the Protestant so-called Negro Moorish King Charles Stuart was the son of James VI, if I'm not mistaken, and his dark-skinned Danish wife, Anne of Denmark. It says Charles became ruler of England in 1685 AD, following the death of his father, the king who suffered from a severe speech impediment. Right? All right, so this Elizabeth of Bohemia, right? The Protestant Negress Moorish Elizabeth Stuart, Queen of Bohemia, was the eldest daughter of James VI, if I'm not mistaken. All right. All right, this James VI. Jake. Right. I'm gonna just get to some more of these. The Mary of Scots, the Roman Catholic Mary of Scots, who loved to wear black garments, was the daughter of Scottish King the Fifth, if I'm not mistaken, who was descended from Ferguson Moore. Right? Henry Stuart, the Protestant Henry Stuart, also known as Lord Daneley, was the son of, I think I read this one already. It's Henry the Seventh, right? So these are our rulers, right? James the Fifth, if I'm not mistaken. They got this Roman numerals. James the Sixth. It says the Negro Moorish so-called Catholic Scottish King James the Sixth. Stuart was the eldest son of James the Third, right? Right. So James the Third. Let's keep going. James the First. Let me read this. It says the Negro Catholic Moorish Scottish King. Well, these are all Israelites. Stuart was the son of Robert III. James I. Stuart became king in 1406 AD to 1437 AD. All right. It says Edward the Black Prince. It says Edward VI of Woodstock was the eldest son of Edward III. He became the Prince of Wales and a great popular military leader at the beginning of his father's reign. Right? And it goes on and on. Edward III. Right? It says the Black Catholic Moorish King Edward III ruled England, from 1327 AD to 1377 AD. Check them out, Jake. Right? You had some called the Holy Roman Empire, right? You got Edward II. It says the Moorish Catholic King Edward II ruled England from 1307 AD to 1327 AD, right? Edward I, the Catholic King Edward, these are all kings and princes and rulers, who was dark-skinned man, ruled England from 1272 AD to 1307 AD. There you go, right? William II Rufus. It says William II Rufus, who was the third son of William, the conqueror of the Matilda of Flanders, ruled England from 1087 AD to 1100 AD. Right? Sir John Stuart. Right? Robert II Stuart. Okay, ruled England. Right? Scotland, Scotland from 1371 AD to 1390 AD. Right? All right. Robert I. Right? You can screenshot him if you want to. Right? It goes on and on. Alexander III. Right? The Christian Alexander, which Christian means Israelite, was the son of the successor of Alexander II. Right? The young lad became king at the age of 7 and married Margaret, the daughter of King Henry III of England. Right? Malcolm of the Sixth, if I'm not mistaken. It says the Christian, which that means Israelite, Malcolm of the Sixth, was the son of Earl Henry and Adi Warreny, and grandson and successor of David I. Right? David I. The Christian king was Israelite King David I, who had Pittich blood in his veins. Right? It goes on and on. Malcolm III. Right? Macbeth. Right? It says Macbeth ruled Scotland from 1040 AD to 1057 AD. Right? Duncan I. It says ruled Scotland from 1034 AD to 1040 AD. It goes on and on. Malcolm II. He said became the ruler of Scotland in 1005 AD. Right? This Kenneth VI, the Christian converted with the Israelite. Right? Right here, Kenneth III. Kenneth III was a king in 997 AD to 1004 AD. Constantine III, right? Scottish king from 995 AD to 997 AD. Man, it goes on and on. Kenneth II. Look at these jakes, man. Why I say you devils not gonna never Cullen, never tell the truth. Ruled Scotland from 966 AD to 971 AD. And it's just a fraction of the rulers of Europe, you know what I'm saying, so-called. Kenneth the Nigger, right? Ruled Scotland from 962 AD to 966 AD. Indulf, right? Ruled Scotland from 954 AD to 967 AD. Right? Malcolm I, right? Donald I, right? Inherited the throne in 858 AD. The king was of a kind of charitable and peaceful person. Right? Kenneth the Maccapan, the nigger, right? If I said that correctly. And it, you know what I'm saying, it goes on and on. Hopefully this lesson was edifying. Call Halal Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushua, Bahashim, Racha, Kodesh. Shalom.